Welcome back, everyone. My name is Alec Jackson, and we are going to talk about didactics of English. So, in this subject of didactics of English, we are going to talk about the communicative approach. Now, the communicative approach is one of 5 approaches. We have the traditional, neutral, natural, structuralist, communicative, and the humanistic. But we are going to talk about exactly the communicative approach, not any of the other 4. Now, the communicative approach, what is it? Is a didactic system. It seeks to enable the student to communicate effectively in the English language, not only orally, but also written. To this end, the instructional process often employs texts, recordings, as well as authentic materials and activities that seek to faithfully imitate the reality outside the classroom. In the context of the approach, the communicative and nocio-functional method is specified. Regarding the communicative approach, Alcade states that none of the previous methodologies achieved by itself the objective of the student learning to communicate in all senses. Therefore, it is a mixture of elements of all methods. It would result in a method that covers through activities, text, dialogues, and varied and motivating exercises, all areas that communication performs. This is how this new method or methodology appeared in the 80s of the last century, whose characteristics can be summarized as follows. It exposes as a starting point thematic, functional, grammatical, and lexical casts. It offers key diverse activities, interactive, motivating, content-based, focused on the development of communicative functions, sometimes even playful with the aims of releasing tensions, escaping from the daily routines and worries to obtain some pleasures, fun, and entertainment. It tries to expose a natural form of language based on daily communication. It gives the right importance to grammatical, lexical, and phonological aspects, which in other methods take on special importance, and in this one, on the other hand, are integrated in the communicative processes. This method achieves its objective by applying psychological and pedagogical principles in the development of the materials, achieving a harmony of components necessary for this communicative process of orthographic, phonological, morphological, lexical, syntactic, semantic, pragmatic, and sociolinguistic type, exposed in a clear and easily perceptible way for the students, necessary ingredients to achieve the motivation of both the teacher and the student. Nocio-functional method, according to Otero, emerged in the 20th century in the late 1970s. It was proposed by Wilkins in his work Notional Syllabus. This method is a way of structuring a syllabus around the notions of current situations in which people communicate. It is a further divided into specific communication functions and objectives. On the other hand, Cabrera indicates that it is characterized by establishing its objectives in terms of observable behavior, and its analysis of language is carried out. Applying the concepts of notion and function, the varied combinations between functions and notions give rise to a series of linguistic exponents. Functions are the intentions of the speaker in the use of language as presentation, negation, affirmation, or information. Now, notions are concepts expressed through language, such as time, quantity, or frequency. It is important to emphasize that in order to achieve positive results in the use and meanings of the English language, the participation of the learners is fundamental. So when, how, and to whom should we use this? So the CLT movement, or the communicative movement, method primarily focused on the interactions during a classroom-based foreign language class or online language learning session, in which students actually produce speech and conversation for most of the classroom time using the target language. The communicative approach includes tasks used in the teaching academic reading. The concentration is on the needs of the student, and the task given is well prepared. The task which is given to the students is taken from all aspects of academic reading. They are done in the classroom in a group discussion, so it's a group discussion. So how to make it work? There are 4 language skills: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. The first 2 skills is called receptive skills, and those 2 last skills are called productive skills. So reading and listening is receptive, speaking and writing is productive. The skills and the activities are, for example, reading skill, to guess the meaning of the word based on the context used, and to determine the main idea of the reading text. We're also supposed to differentiate the fact and idea in the reading text. The listening skill is to give answer of the oral questions about a topic. Also to fulfill the chart table based on the oral information. The last thing is to do the task based on instruction giving orally. Speaking skill, A is to give questions and answer of a topic, B is to report the result of the discussion, and C is to share opinion about something important. Writing skill, to make summary of reading text, B is to write the answer in order to understand the text, and C is to write a formal letter and an individual letter in a good and right form. All the indicators I mentioned above become the specific learning purpose, which was used as a starting point of learning activity using communicative approach in the classroom. Now, certain activities can be like anything from pair work to group work to discussions and debates. So these are some activities. Task-based activities and games can be utilized within a CLT framework. So think about how your students will use English outside the classroom and develop meaningful classroom activities around your students' interests and motivations. So anything, like these are certain activities we can do. An example activity would be like for business English. If you teach business English, you could have a student prepare a business presentation, role play a negotiation or job interview, or call to set up a business meeting. Example activities, for example, could be academic English students studying academic English at a university could be asked to research an academic topic for class discussion, role play, a meeting with a professor or advisor, or ask for directions around campus. By focusing on real-world English applications, you can develop authentic speaking activities that will motivate students and help build their oral proficiency skills. Another example could be Alibi, which is a game that can be used to increase student talk time. Uh, in this game, students are divided into two teams, police officers and suspects. After introducing a fake crime, suspects are given time to create an alibi while police officers create questions for an interrogation. Next, with all students participating, all police officer questions all ask suspects one-on-one and try to find differences in the suspects' stories. After the police officer has a chance to question each suspect individually, differences or lies are counted up and the roles are switched. Once the cycle has been completed one more time, this team with the fewest lies is the winner. This game is the great way for students to practice past tense questions and answers. We can also start each class with a speaking activity. So having students speak for 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of each class. Students will appreciate the routine of the daily speaking practice, and topics and activities can be tied to the lesson for each day. So for ways you can do this is by preparing a picture of the day for students to talk about. Open with daily discussion questions. Begin each day with short conversation starters. 2-minute conversations also work. Or homework, you can find information about current events from their own country and start the class by having the students discuss the current events. The next thing is you can give students the first sentence to a story and have them complete it by adding a new sentence one at a time. Then you can do this in groups. Let students do the work for you in a traditional language classroom. Now you want to pick the students are allowed to pick the topic, lead the class in discussion, call on each other student, read directions or instructions aloud, offer peer feedback, and also answer questions posed by other students. Another example can be small talk. It makes students responsible for picking topics and leading class discussions. Teachers objectively observe student conversations, give language feedback at the end of the class. So yeah, so those are certain ways you can have this type of approach. Also, if students give presentations, try to encourage your students, by asking questions. Scaffolding, summarizing one by one will help a lot. That's an example. We'll use practical use. For example, so beginner levels, we can use for practical use, we can use communicative drills, which means statements or questions implies that they are systematic. For example, nice to meet you, and B, nice to meet you too. So drills. Dialogues provides a structure for communication in everyday settings. As learners improve and gain more confidence, you can have them branch out. Pair work, working in pairs, groups, or teams can help less confident learners develop more confidence. The more confident students can model language and system in reduced threat environments. Writing assignments, since writing is a part of communication, why not assign writing tasks for beginners? You can do them in class work. They can have guidance and can be monitored, so they can be done in class. Intermediate levels, you can do contextual activities. This means giving learners various contexts with which to practice the language. General conversations allow intermediate class members to talk about relatively common topics such as what they did yesterday, the family, yada yada. Read and speak. You can provide appropriately leveled reading materials for your students. Have them read and ask comprehension questions. From there, get into conversation questions. The idea is to have them that they have the reading material accessible. Role play helps a lot. Role playing for common subjects is an excellent resource. So try to put them in roles. Writing assignments, again, writing assignments can be leveled up for intermediate level learners. You can ask them to summarize what they read, stuff like that. Advanced levels, debates help a lot. They get to dig deeper about the topic and argue about it. Discussions, simple discussions of more in-depth ideas can develop English skills in advanced learners. In-class writing assignments challenge advanced students to write in-class assignments. That gets them thinking on the fly. News reports. This is one of my. This is a favorite of some many people. You can ask or assign class members on news segments to read, listen to, or watch, and ask them to report on the next day to a small group. Read and paraphrase. You can have advanced learners read text and challenge them to paraphrase what they just read. Now we're going to talk about the disadvantages and the advantages of this method. The advantages of this method can be communicative approach is much more pupil orientated because it is based on pupils' needs and interests. Communicative approach seeks to personalize and localize language and adapt it to interests of pupils. Meaningful language is always more easily retained by learners. It seeks to use authentic resources, and that is more interesting and motivating for children. It can also help children acquire grammar rules as a necessity to speak so it is more proficient and efficient. Disadvantages, it pays insufficient attention to the context in which teaching and learning takes place. The communicative approach often seems to be interpreted as if the teacher understands the student, we have good communication. But native speakers of the target language can have great difficulty understanding students. Another disadvantage is that the CLT approach focuses on fluency but not accuracy. The approach does not focus on error reduction, but instead creates a situation where learners are left using their own device to solve their communication problems. So they may produce incoherent, grammatically incorrect sentences. That's super important. How we evaluate students. So the evaluation system is designed as a practical instrument to provide feedback to teachers and for the purpose of producing improved teaching materials. The approach is to initially consider the qualities of communicative activities which lead to successful learning outcomes in a range of classroom situations. The evaluation system is designed as a practical instrument. So there is a system and it's an instrument to provide feedback to teachers and for the purpose of producing improved teaching materials. The approach taken is to initially consider the qualities of communicative approach. So yeah, like I said before, this leads to helping us understanding more. Evaluation of a communication language based on the existing curriculum in our country about the mastery of English as a foreign language. This is something that students should have. They should have at least 14 language skills, which includes listening, speaking, writing, and reading. Oh, well, it's actually 4 language skills. Sorry, forgive me for that. 4 language skills. So listening, speaking, writing, and reading. And many situations where English is taught for general purpose, these skills should be carefully integrated and used to perform as many generally communicative tasks as possible. Way of certain performance in the 4 major skills may take the form of a test. So for example, listening, you have an listening comprehension, and in which short utterances, dialogues, and talks and lectures are given to testees. Speaking ability, usually in the form of an interview, a picture, description, role play, and problem-solving task involving pair work or group work. Third one is reading comprehension, in which questions are set to test the student's ability to understand the gist of the text and extract key information on specific points in the text. Writing ability, usually in the form of letters, reports, memos, messages, instructions, accounts, apart even the purpose of language performance. So the purpose of language performances are what? Language competence, language skills, language aspect in which there are vocabulary, phonology, grammatically, as well as tests performed. Um, so we test for language skills. Then there's an aspect language test. The test should also enable the teacher to insert in which parts of the programmed language have been found difficult for the by the class. In this way, the teacher can evaluate the effectiveness of the syllabuses, as well as the methods and materials the teacher is using. So the evaluation is this: simply just testing them on their speaking, reading, writing, and listening. So you have to test them. And that's the evaluation. We just set up tests, practical tests actually. But this is the communicative approach. I know that we talked for about 15 minutes of this approach, and I hope that you all understood what was being said, and I hope next time we can talk more about another subject. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.